guys, I'm ChezPride, and today I want to play catch up on what has been going on in the EA and the Sims world in regards of news, drama, and actions being taken on all of it. Now, obviously, I've been quite quiet on this channel in the last few weeks till my last video, and that was actually due to my twice-a-year seasonal job rolling around, and I ended up taking a break on videos to originally prep for the month of work, and it ended up just being a longer break than I planned due to the actual month of work. So, I have a lot to cover and catch up on, but I do think that there is some important current events that should be covered and talked about in this community as much as possible. So today we are going to talk more about the EA buyout, what people are trying to do to stop it currently, and the news and drama going around the Sims 4 marketplace. So let's go ahead and dive in with the petition to attempt to block the buyout fully. Now I'm going to go ahead and start this portion of the video by saying I normally don't talk about anything to do with politics, whether that be what's going on in politics, politicians, anything like that on my channel. I feel like I try to keep this as a safe place to not really think about that stuff. But for once, I feel like someone in the government is slightly helping us. And I also want to go into saying that I don't feel like that this petition alone is going to completely stop the buyout, considering that, we know whose son-in-law is really behind this EA buyout. So I don't think even getting these people that are getting involved in it is going to completely stop it. But I feel like with enough people joined together in this petition and other people taking action on it, because there are also other people taking action on it besides the people doing this petition, that it could at least possibly change the way they write the conditions of the buyout, and maybe it won't be as bad. I mean, we all know the EA buyout is going to be bad, but we can at least do what we can to put our opinion out there and hope that it somewhat changes things, even though I know that's technically how government things are supposed to work, but it typically doesn't work out that way, just in history and how the government actually works behind the scenes. But we're not going to get into my political views. We're just going to get into the facts of what is going on with this petition. So if you have somehow not heard of this potential EA buyout that has been going on the last year, that honestly is probably going to happen whether we like it or not at this point, then bless your sweet little innocent soul for staying under the rock for that long. I have talked about it in a few of my videos here on my channel, but we are going to talk about it again today. So let me quickly just kind of catch you up what's going on. I'm not going to go into full detail because, like I said, I have talked about this and what is exactly going on in previous video. But basically, Donald Trump's son and his company of Silver Lakes, combined with Affinity Partners and the Saudi Arabia's public investment funds, are all trying to team together to buy out EA. And if that happens, there could be a lot of stuff to be concerned about, stuff to do with people being cut and replaced with AI. There's going to be a $20 billion debt. A new investor pressure will be accepted at the worst anti-customer practices. There's going to be more aggressive microtransactions, just all of this kind of stuff. And they're talking about trying to make it where they don't have to go through the Human Rights Society to approve what changes they make, which means games like The Sims that are really inclusive could be at risk. I mean, Maxis and the Sims team are saying that The Sims and their goals will never change, but to worst come to worst, we could never know what could happen if this EA deal was to happen. Now, do I think that the EA will take away, the culture of The Sims and make it to where there's no LGBT characters or anything like that? No, that would be extreme worst case scenario, but they could very much pressure their beliefs, and it it just isn't good, especially with like the people being laid off for AI and whatnot. It's just not a good move. So what is going on is that, I am a huge fan of Lil Simsy. We all know it. But Lil Simsy has teamed up with Zephyrin and the representative from Orlando, like the government representative, Maxwell Frost, which is the first Gen Z person to be in the government, like on that type of job line, which is pretty cool. And he is also a gamer who is a simmer, and they basically went on this Twitch stream and played games together and talked about what is going on with the EA buyout and basically this petition that they have started to hopefully go to the United Secretary of Treasury and to there be put forth to stop the EA buyout. But like I said, it is Trump's son-in-law doing the buyout. So as much as I really like the idea of this petition and still think you should go sign it, I don't know if it will 100% actually stop the EA buyout. But like I mentioned earlier, I do think that the influences for the conditions for the buyout could potentially be changed if enough people speak up and say, hey, these parts are messed up. We don't want this. So let me go ahead and just kind of review what this little thing here says. It says EA's $55 billion private equity buyout will hand over Saudi Arabia investors massive control over gaming. By taking on $20 billion in debt, new investor pressures will accelerate at the worst anti-customer practices, intensifying aggressive microtransaction, mass layoffs, and studio closures. But this deal cannot go forward without the U.S. government approval, and with enough public security and pressure, regulators can block it. By signing, you're helping defending gamers, protect customers, and demand a fear of failure for the industry. This campaign is for every gamer who believes that gaming actually makes our lives better, and it's our job to protect from corporal greed. And if you are signing this, is saying to Scott Bessent, I don't know words, United Secretary of Treasury, from your name, because this is what you will fill out right here. It says sign the petition. You put your name and your email, your phone number, and your Discord handle if you have one, and your postal or zip code. And it does give you an option for, if you're not in the US, a way that you can still sign this. You just have to click here for that. And then it says what EA games do you play. They want to know what category you're coming from. And you can also write in the comments any additional things that you want to say. And then you just add your name to the petition. And so far as this website is saying, out of the 70,000 signatures they are going to be gold for, they have 68,036 signatures. So that is showing that this is not being taken lightly by the current community. So, and then it goes on to say that this deal would hand over essential influences in one of the fastest growing industries to Saudi Arabia invaders, and due to $20 billion in debt financing further, it's a harmful anti-customer practices that EA is already pushing. Blocking the EA buyout is about protecting customers and ensuring that the video game industry remains fair, competitive, and sustainable. So that is what the petition is going on. I've given my thoughts. I've showed you where you can do this. I will try to remember to put the link, but in case I forget to somehow put the link down in the bio and you did want to sign it and haven't yet, because I do feel like even though I'm saying that this may not fully stop it, it is important enough for them to get as many signatures as possible to try to influence the deal at least. Then the actual link is PLAYALLIANCE-EHQ.org/block-EA-deal-petition/. So that is the link and is Player Alliance petitions basically. So feel free to go to that link and sign and it is free, and they do have a way that you can do it even if you're not in the US. So I will try to remember to put that link down below. But this petition was not fully taken lightly by EA itself. Basically, the EA Creator Network, specifically the Sims team ones, were sent out a message. Now, only the EA creators got this message, and it wasn't fully saying like, hey, don't talk about your place in the EA Creator Network and how this is negatively influencing you, but it did kind of say ways that they could avoid saying that, and I thought it was interesting enough to bring up. So someone went ahead and shared the email with us. So it starts out by saying, we are aware of a planned live stream today, talking about the live stream with Lil Simsy and the other Twitch player and the council member. And it says, discussing EA's agreement to be acquired. Moments like this can bring attention and opinions across these social channels, and we want to make sure you feel supported. And I have mixed feelings on this. Like, I feel like they were trying to put out a good message to the people that are still with the EA network, but also the way they were doing this is definitely more EA's part than it is the Sims team putting this out. Just listen. So it says, as we continue to build the future of The Sims, our teams of creative control, guided by our values of inclusivity, choice, creativity, community, and play, remain unchanged. The Sims will always be a space where you can express your authentic self. That is what hopefully the goal is if the full EA buyout happens, and it is the worst case scenario that could be taken away. But as far as I can tell, the Sims team doesn't want that to happen. I mean, as far as I can tell, the Sims team doesn't want this buyout to happen in general. But it says there is no satisfaction for you to engage with or respond to this conversation. You will always be free to express your honest opinions if you choose to, but it is completely okay if you prefer to step back from the conversation entirely, which I do feel like it can be like a good message, being like, hey, we care about your mental health, don't let this affect you as a creator. But it's also kind of selfish in a way, because they're like, don't talk about the bad shit. So it says, if you get questions from your community, you can always let people know you don't have additional information to share. Direct them to the Sims official channels for updates such as our Discord or our newsroom, and take space from things feeling overwhelming. And you can also refer to your creator toolkit for additional guidance. And obviously this is just a picture of the message. I can't press on any of this, but apparently there's a toolkit like guiding them and like how to deal with these things, which is interesting. Not controlling at all. But above all, our goal is to make sure that you are not put in a position where you feel responsible for explaining or defending anything related to this moment. If you experience any issue or need support, please don't hesitate to reach out directly. We are here. We'll continue to keep you updated as needed, and we appreciate you always, the Sims team. But like I said, I feel like that was definitely more EA's side responding to that. As you can see, that's kind of EA's take on the community actually petitioning this, which just kind of shines some light on their side of the situation and how they truly feel about people's opinions. Now, I know they are definitely hearing us, because it's not just these people that are doing the petition. It is so many people in the community. We've had so many people step down from the EA network, and I'm sure that the people that I'm talking about in this video aren't the only important people getting involved and making big influence and showing political interest in the situation. But another one I thought was important to talk about was this article from the House Committee on the Jury of the Democrats from Jamie Rickson. So basically, Ranking Member Rickson opens sweeping investigation to the U.S. Special Envoy for Peace on Jared Kushner's foreign entanglements and strategy conflicts of interest. So just to summarize, they're pretty much showing like where they're doing things possibly not in the best interest of things, and is like kind of conflicting with certain things. And this goes as far as the things that they're pushing for with the buyout, as well as the people that are getting involved and whatnot, and bringing in different countries, and how that, considering that different governments from different countries are getting involved, they need to go through certain people that they're not going through, and they're kind of just putting out a whole investigation on the thing, which could help or could hurt. We'll see what happens, but there is a whole article about that if you're interested. And like I said, I'm sure these aren't the only big shots getting involved in this, but I felt like that was some of the ones mainly we should talk about. But I do feel like the petition out of all of this is probably the most important. Even though I don't feel like it would fully stop it, I feel like if they get enough signatures and it gets enough attention and there's enough people talking about it, that it could possibly make a difference. So that was the first part of this video I want to talk about. Next, I want to go back into talking about the marketplace. So you guys have probably also heard about the marketplace at this point. I've showed it off in another video and talked about why I don't agree with the concept of the marketplace and moolah and maker packs and whatnot. But just in case you, again, somehow haven't heard about the marketplace or opened up your game since the marketplace has been added, at the end of last month, the Sims team added a new in-game store where you can buy moolah, which is in-game currency, and buy maker packs, and what was originally also kits with it. So they had moved the kits to be only available through moolah, as well as the maker packs, and maker packs like ranged from 100 moolah to like 500 moolah, and you would like buy the packs, and they were supposed to be like CC but in game, so you didn't have to download them through CC creators, which is what you should be doing. You shouldn't be buying the marketplace because they are only giving 30% of the revenue to the creator, and they are not making the packs. They're letting these creators make these maker packs. So it's really not a good thing at all, and people are very much having a negative reaction to it. Most of the positive reaction, I feel like at this point, is going to be coming from console players, because console players don't have a way to download CC, but pretty much what they're trying to do is put CC behind a paywall to where they don't have to make the content and they can get all the money for it, instead of you just downloading free CC or giving back to the CTE creators through things like Patreon and whatnot. I still feel like it's a better way to do. The news that came out is that console now has availability in marketplace, which is going to make the, I feel like, biggest influences. Now we all know that console always gets stuff after PC and Mac, but the change that they made with this I thought was very interesting. Now there's also a bunch of bug fixes and whatnot. There was like a whole patch update, but before we jump into the patch update, let's talk about what changes they made to the marketplace, which is actually, it's weird how they did it. For PC and Mac, they made kits still available to the EA app. So basically they took them away from the EA app when the marketplace was made, and then now they're making it where for PC players and Mac players, you can now buy kits on the EA app again. But now that the console has the marketplace, they still have to buy kits through the marketplace, and they did it because and made that decision something about how it would work and mess up the structure of the console if they put it back. I don't know, they'll probably fix it, but basically they had such a negative reaction in 1 month of the marketplace being out that the kits were being moved from the EA app to the marketplace, to where you would have to purchase moolah to buy them, that they switched it back when they switched it to console. It's really weird, but basically it says this update delivers the Sims 4 marketplace to PlayStation, Xbox, and brings Simmers access to maker packs and more. On console versions of The Sims 4, we include kits as a part of game files, so unlike PC and Mac, all the storage will be for maker packs. Storage on both PlayStation and Xbox is shared space for all simmers on account on console, blah blah blah, and it shows all the information. When playing with console cloud gaming, you may need to read down your own maker pack content at the start of the new session. This can be done through the marketplace downloader, and it just kind of explains how it works. And then your kids' expansion packs and game packs and stuff will not need to be re-downloaded at each session, which I still think is weird that they're having to do that. And then it says, as well as bringing the marketplace to more platforms, we have addressed a number of issues reported on PC and Mac to improve experience stability, which are available to all platforms, which you can check down below. Now, it seems a little confusing, but when you look it up, are Sims for Kids back on the EA app? It says, yes, as of April 16th, which was a week ago, the Sims for Kids have returned to the EA app and Steam on storefronts for PC and Mac. They are no longer exclusive in-game marketplace, which is restricted on console. That kind of explains that. And I just thought that was weird how they did that, but they did also put out a whole article on the marketplace on console. So it says, for the first time ever, PlayStationers can now access the community created content via the in-game marketplace starting today, which was obviously a week ago. With the marketplace now available on consoles, players can now browse, download, and enjoy creations from the Sims community without leaving the game. Whether you're building your dream home or styling it, the Sims 4 Maker Pass gives you even more ways to bring your stores to life and make your experience your own. We already know from past videos what marketplace looks like, what the concept of it is, but this article just kind of dives straight into that. But it also does show that in honor of this, they're trying to go ahead and give Sims a kit for free on the marketplace specifically. So they are still available on marketplace, but they're trying to make you use marketplace by getting a free kit if you don't already have it. Funny enough, I'm pretty sure this kit was one of the kits that was free when it came out originally, or they had some kind of deal at another point where it was free. So they've already offered this kit for free, and now they're just like, oh, come over to the marketplace and we'll give it to you free again. So it's just like, it's this whole thing, they're trying to promote it, and I don't like it. I just don't like it. But that is the biggest news as far as the marketplace goes right now, is that kits on PC and Mac are available back on the app and marketplace, and marketplace is now available to console players, which, like I said, is probably going to give it its most positive feedback because console players don't have another way to get creator content. So they're really putting them in a corner and hoping their feedback is going to give them the best feedback, as well as giving out that free kit so that people are using the marketplace and they can be like, well, off of the people using it and getting stuff off of it, it's going as a success, so we're going to do more microtransactions, get more creators to do work for us, and take away their fair revenue. So, don't like it, but that is what is currently going on. As far as everything else goes, the only other things I want to talk about is the bug fixes that came along with the patch update that released the marketplace to console. Now, this patch update is obviously not just for console, so it says, base game update. The EA Forums pack content will no longer be shown as deactivated after installing and will be enabled by default. You can customize your gallery experience even further by including or excluding maker packs with a new filter. So they have now done the maker packs. Now they don't have them individually listed. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be like kits where they said, hey, here's a kit filter, and then eventually after we had enough kits brought us a filter for each kit. There's so many maker packs and they were releasing them so fast. Like, I think they started out with at least 12 or 15 put out on the first day, that they're probably not going to put them by individual filters, but they at least have a filter for maker packs in general. And honestly, I'm not going to push for the individual filters like I did with the kit, because I just think there's going to be too many maker packs by the end of this. And then it says, use items from these packs and show use item selection from the gallery now reflects when maker packs were used in certain creations, so they apparently weren't showing up in the gallery when you made stuff with maker packs. I wouldn't know that. I haven't bought any maker packs. I'm not going to be buying any maker packs, so there's that. And then Create a Sim and Buyout will now show the golden star icon for newly installed content from Marketplace, making your new purchases easier to find. So apparently they weren't even marking the new items. And then deactivated packs will display their correct status in the load gain rather than showing not as owned. They're basically having a bunch of display things go wrong in the gallery. And then resolved an issue where the Moolah wallet wouldn't update after a purchase. Resolved an issue where causing pack download status to display as failed despite the download being successful. Connection required errors should no longer appear after making multiple purchases in a row. Bunch of problems going on here. Maker names should now appear correctly for all maker packs. Fix an issue preventing the browse page filters from being reset when the marketplace was accessed from the gallery. Marketplace images should load correctly when marketplace is accessed from the gallery. Resolving an issue where owned pack would show as not owned in the load save screen if the pack was deactivated. And various UI scaling improvements from the main menu and marketplace. So that is for the base game updates. Now you get into the console updates. And honestly, that was a lot of things wrong with the maker pack for them to fix just after, or not just the maker packs, but the marketplace after just 1 month of being out. As far as console, PlayStation and Xbox owners also get the recent updates that were just listed. And then this patch also marks the arrival of the updates to the gallery, discovering with improved filters for easier gallery navigation, which we already got these on PC in a previous patch I went over, but they are now available on console because we know that console players get stuff way later than everyone else. There is also bug fixes, starting with the top 5 most voted community fixes. I think these are going to be just about the game in general, not just the marketplace. We're finally moving out of that situation, but we have a bunch of bug fixes to go over here from base game to packs. And the first 5 were the quote most top 5 voted fixes. So if you do not know, you can go to the EA forum. You can upvote people that are saying the problems they're having. If you're having them too, or if you don't see the problem you're having on there, you can also put what problem you're having, and they try to use that to base what they need to do as fast as possible. Also, I would like to point out that in a previous video I slightly mentioned, didn't talk about it a lot, that it was to the point that people were downloading the stuff from the maker packs and pirating them for people, which I did and didn't like. I'm not against that fully, but I don't like that it takes away what the makers are getting. But basically, within a week of that person pirating it and putting it out there, they tracked that person down and sent them a warning and made them shut it down. But it took them a month just to fix the stuff in the marketplace, and it has taken even longer from them to fix some of these things that they're talking about here. Why can you track down someone so quickly, but you can't track down a problem in the game you create? I know, that's probably me being petty, but it just feels weird. But let's go ahead and jump into the bug fixes for The Sims 4 in general. I believe these are probably going to be console and PC, so if you own the game, these are the fixes that came in the patch last week. So number 1 out of the quote most 5 voted fixes. I'm never fully sure if these really are the most top 5, but we'll see. So it says assistive updates to ensure that the Sims eyes blinking will now show fully closed eyes for most interactions. So they already fixed this for sleeping specifically. Now they're fixing it for most actions. And then as far as the ones that don't say it specifically to a pack, we they have implemented a knowledgeable change in how Sims determine who they speak to on a lot. Now Sims will generally prefer speaking with familiar Sims that they already have a good rapport with, and the Sims are less likely to engage with strangers. They did work on this slightly with the last patch update, but apparently they're improving on that aspect in particular. And then as far as ones that have to do with packs, particularly that you have to have paid DLC for, with high school years proms will once again appear on calendars, which they said was fixed in the last patch. But we kind of have to take these patches with a grain of salt, because sometimes they don't fix, sometimes they do fix, sometimes they temporarily fix and then break again. It's just, these are what they're attempting to fix. So it says that it'll show up on calendars and some will be able to attend again. This will ensure that it's working for both new and old saves. And then as far as cats and dogs / horse ranch, they're just pets in general. We fixed an issue where pets and horse data was being lost in pre-made household. This issue will no longer occur in new saves. Existing saves where the issue already occurred will not be retroactively corrected. So unfortunately, it won't happen for old saves, but just for new saves. And then for cottage living, more animal stuff. Animals can be assigned to shed after moving the household to a new lot. They no longer become stuck in a household or Sim inventory. Again, that was also in the last patch update. Interesting. Now we have Sims autonomy improvement. Sim autonomy is one of the quality of life team key focuses areas based in the community feedback, and this update delivers on 3 of our top autonomy issues: Sim socializing with strangers, excessive flirting, and Sims using certain objects obsessively. We will continue to watch player feedback surrounding autonomy for future updates. And actually the first 2 were also heavily focused on in the last patch update. This one says this, so let's go to base games. It says, we have addressed the issues where Sims excessively flirt with each other. Again, like I said, that was addressed last patch. We've heard your feedback and want to address the Sims using computers and phones too often. So we have added a few new preferences to the base game, including likes and phones, computer likes, dislikes phones, and dislikes computer. If you don't want your Sim to totally use these options, give them the dislike phones and dislike computer preference, and they will use objects more often. Select like as the preferences. So you can see here where they have these 2 new things under the hobbies and skills, likes and preferences, and basically that just shows where you can make it where they won't use technology, basically, if you're trying to tell that story, which would have been so nice in my Grimm series. And then it says, if a Sim autonomously uses a phone, they will receive a cooldown on wanting to do this autonomously again for a 6 Sim hour. This cooldown does not exist for a non-active Sim household, teens, or Sims who like phones. And then it kind of has the same thing on the computer. They'll receive a cooldown unless they're geeks. We have Troll the Phone Worms. The computer interaction has been added to the same cooldown to use for other computer interactions. They'll also need a mischief skills of level 6 or higher to be considered for the action autonomously, unless they have the following traits: evil, childish, geek, hot-headed, or erratic or mean. And then same thing, Sims who destroy Dollhouse will now receive a cooldown, so they won't want to do this, and they will now have to have the evil, hates children, mean, or hot-headed trait. So your 100 babies and mama isn't going to destroy the Dollhouse anymore unless you give her those traits. Then if a Sim autonomously makes strings, they will receive a cooldown on wanting to do this autonomously again for a Sims day for non-NPCs. Previously, this would occur frequently for Sims who would aspire or Sims with the bro or foodie trait. And then Sims autonomously swims will have a cooldown on wanting to do this unless they're at parties or on pool venues. And then also they will do it still if it is on a mart interaction at getaway clubs or small businesses, or if they're more folks or plant Sims, because they need that. And then if the the Sims constantly plays harder, they'll receive a cooldown unless they're music lovers. The Sim constantly plays chess, they'll receive a cooldown. They added a cooldown for Sims with dancing on a lot that a Sim owns, so they'll dance less. We're reducing how often Sims consider turning on the radio. Through practicing a staple of Sims culture, we have added a cooldown on push-ups, sit-ups, and stretches unless they're energized or at a gym venue with the active trait. And we have a cooldown for foodie Sims watching the culinary training videos on television. If a child simultaneously uses the spaceship jungle ship, they will receive a cooldown. I would like a cooldown for the playground equipment from Adventure Awaits, but that's just me. And then same thing, Lumber Clay, they'll receive a cooldown. And this cooldown does not care for Sims who like pottery. And then for Discovery University, Sims constantly playing with the soccer doll will receive a cooldown. Cottage Living, Sims constantly doing cross stitch will receive a cooldown. Love Struck, a Sim who no longer consider playing Who's Up party games while in the middle of writing a book on a computer. Adventure Awaits, the Sims autonomously playing paper airplanes will receive a cooldown on wanting to do this autonomously again for a while. And if they like paper crafting, it won't cure. And then if a Sim autonomously uses the yoga's map, they will receive a cooldown on wanting to do this autonomously right away. This cooldown does not exist for high maintenance Sims who like wellness. And then Movie Hangout Pack, a cooldown has been added for the popcorn popper. Actually, that one was really needed. That was a really annoying one. Pet and animal fixes. With two of our top community issues being around animals and pets, we received a few other bugs in this category as well. So animals in the animal shed, kitchen, chicken coop, mini goats, and sheep will no longer be multiplied. This was happening when Sims were placed into an inventory and then back in the world after the Sim moved their household. That has actually been happening for a very long time, so I'm actually glad to see that one. And then that seems to be all the cooldown ones and animal fixes. Now we just have general bug fixes. So back to the base game. Sims with the unflurry trait will no longer get the ick when hugged, and then placing a painting on a wall and then returning to a Sim's inventory will no longer result in a simulation error. And then resolved an issue that caused a main menu message to appear more frequently than intended. And then seasons, flowers will no longer get stuck in mid-air when crafting a flower arrangement. And then for rent, the due inspection and maintenance interaction is now available on acceptable working and broken objects in a tenant household for landlord Sims. This should function both during maintenance events and outside them in landlord situation. And then with life and death, we've adjusted the design element of some of our swatches on a rug, which were concerning some players. And then we also have 3 for Royalty and Legacy, our newest and probably last expansion pack from what I can tell. So there's an issue where the update family tree could cause wrong connections overlapping, which has now been fixed. They've been trying to fix this since that came out. We have fixed a crash that could occur when resuming the game after deleting the Cap household in Andorian. And Andorian Philomere is no longer reversed. And then in Parenthood, we have a whole paragraph here on this one. So it says, child and teen Sims who grew up in the same household but weren't related could get super sibling relationship despite not being related, then could later romance each other. But we didn't want to prevent stories where children would not possibly have been in the same household at one point while not related and ended up in a relationship. So we decided to fix this by renaming the relationship to childhood besties and frenemies. And then in Strangerville, there's no longer a script call error when plant contamination cells is not on the lot and the player tries to place another object. And then we also have a bunch of cast and build mode tagging updates as well. So I don't know if I want to read all of these, but basically all the makeup and everyday categories been added hot and cold. We've sorted 43 existing items under kids decoration. Various lights have been sorted into the outdoor lighting category. The cute critter basket is now sorted under kids decorations. There's an update swatch for some lipstick. This will no longer, there's a certain bottom that will no longer appear for masculine frame Sims. A pencil holder object additionally sorted in the clutter category in build mode. There's a Wicked work worker diaper object now sorted under kids furniture. The Bow Wow Wow object is now sorted under life event activities. The Martian soil pattern will now categorize under Miss category rather than paneling in the build mode category. The sweet peas and fire brick patterns are now sorted in mystery and sliding when it comes to walls. And the Pessimist Moon right side up gnome and Bob the Butler fancy sculpture have now been put in sculptures. When it comes to multi-pack, they've added a large amount of love seats and benches that now requires benches for a lot requirement when placed. In Love Struck, we've added a Love Struck beard swatch to display correct order, and then also a masculine frame fashion choice and ISM filters. In Life and Death, actually 2 panelings are now sorted into the paneling category, and there's also a lunar reverent sort into the wallpaper category. Enchanted by Nature, a wild uncanny cane plant now is sort under roof sculptures and outdoor plants, and then a certain top no longer sorts as yellow and creates some filters. In the Machino, the librarian bookshelf and the I'm So Shiny surface has removed from sculpture category. In holiday celebration, the holiday lamps are now set under table lamps, and the holiday snowman and pre-sung lights are now sorted under outdoor lighting. And just a couple of more. So we have under the kitchen clutter, all the clutter items in the kitchen pack are now available and sorting under the pack filter and looking under miscellaneous decorations. And then the Forever Friends event, apparently there's something wrong with one of those objects to where one of the tops will no longer appear for masculine frame sims, which I feel like is weird. They would take away something from a masculine frame sim considering there's not enough of it, but whatever. And then the last one is the Nature Calling event, and the Cove Zone, the round Cove Zone and the flat Cove Zone cluster objects are now sorted in the outdoor plants rocks. And that is everything I wanted to go over. I feel like that was a lot to cover. I feel like I didn't spend too long on a certain topic. I kind of covered a very broad range of topics, but I feel like they were all important and all are things that probably honestly just need to be talked about in the community as much as possible. Now, I know it's been a while since I've done a news video or really any videos at all except for the last one I posted, so I am sorry about that. The break did take a little bit longer than I was expecting, but there was a lot of stuff going on. I had 2 other jobs I was doing, and I had mic mess ups and computer mess ups, and there was just a bunch of stuff going on. But I'm glad to have finally covered all the news that has been going on in the last little less than a month that I've been away, and hopefully we see a change in the EA future soon enough. But if you made it to this part of the video, thank you for watching, and I hope you found it educational or entertaining, or both, because that was the purpose. And for now, I'm gonna leave you guys with this one. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and do all that awesome stuff, because you guys are awesome people. I'll see you next time. Alright, bye!